Apparently my video capture isn't, updating here. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Apparently my, webcam did not want to restart and become visible in OBS after I exited out of talking on Zoom. Sorry about that. So, we're gonna pick up right where we left off last week with continuing to make our mod pack for Skyrim, specifically Skyrim Special Edition. So, last time, what we had focused on doing was actually installing all of our mods. And again, if you guys have any mod suggestions, feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat, and I will see if I can find room for them, see if I can include them in here, make sure that they are, in fact, compatible with everything, all that fun jazz. But for right now, we've got a sizable number of mods, as you can see. If we go into our plugins, and we'll just click off of that, you can see that we have 214 plugins, with an additional 305 light plugins. So, it's saying that plugins shouldn't exceed mod index 0xfd for a total of 254, and we can have up to 4,096 light plugins. So we are nowhere close. We could add in, theoretically, another 40 plain mods, and another few thousand light mods. So that's why I'm saying if you guys have any suggestions, feel free to let me know, and I will see if it is compatible, because we have quite a bit of wiggle room there. Now, we need to make sure that all of these mods are going to be okay. So, what do I mean by that? Well, if we go over, so you've got 2 pages that you can look at your mods in within Vortex. You have your Mods tab, which is where you can see the actual whole mod that you've installed. And then you have the plugins. Each mod can have multiple plugins that each counts as its own entry in here. So you'll see that some of them are patches that can be installed by a faux mod, which is a full order mod. And you'll notice that we have this option that we can sort by a bunch of different flags, so we can see which ones are master plugins, which ones are light plugins, could be light plugins, native, dirty, don't clean, warnings, loot messages. What we're really concerned about right now are the ones that are listed as incompatible. What does incompatible mean? Well, if you hover over this orange triangle, which is the flag that says this mod is incompatible, you'll see that it says designed for a different game. Now, in this particular case, what that means is all of these are mods that were ported over from regular Skyrim to Skyrim Special Edition. Now, they will still work, but Loot is going to yell at us about it, Vortex is going to yell at us about it, because there's something in it that says, I'm not meant to be used with this particular game. We also have some of them that could be listed as light, so we'll deal with those later. But first, I wanted to show you guys how to actually, at least attempt to change these so that they can be loaded without having these warnings, because the more of these warnings we have, the more unstable our game is going to be, even though it can technically be loaded normally. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to see if I have the creation kit within Steam. I should, but I might have to re-download it. Because unfortunately the only way that you can change the game type is within the creation kit, which you do have to make a Bethesda.net account for. It is free, and you don't have to buy anything in there in order to do that. But you do need to make an account and sign in with it. So, if I go to the store, do they actually have it in the store? No, they do not. Okay. So I'm gonna have to go to their website and download it, but that's fine. Skyrim Creation Kit. There we go. I believe this is it. Ah, this is the wiki for it. Okay. Where's the actual... Ah, download. Skyrim Creation Kit. That seems like... Where is Bethesda.net? Yeah. Let's just go to Bethesda.net. Home. Let's just start there. Okay. And we will go to Skyrim Special Edition. I apologize for the not safe for work mods that may be shown here. I have no idea how to turn that off for right now. So, again, I apologize. I'm going to guess that we have to go... They really should make this easier. I'm just gonna search it. Creation Kit. You would think they would have a nice big download section. Really? They have the Fallout 4? Jesus. Okay. That's great. Oh. There we go. Okay. That's right. Download for free. I forgot that it's not technically listed as the Creation Kit, it's the launcher. And then you get the Creation Kit through the launcher. Yes, I want it in English. No, I want it installed in my E. Thank you. Install. Sure, I'll add a desktop back. Thank you, Bethesda, for making this one of the most complicated processes. It's not like you need it in order to get the Creation Kit or anything. Oh. So we'll go ahead and close that page. Wonderful. Excuse me. Woot! Okay, so... And remember me, that should be when I log in. I hereby acknowledge, yes, yes, yes. Please read the... I don't have hours to spend reading this. Acknowledge. Oh my god. Accept. Oh, and you haven't even checked my login. Okay, there we go. Dear Lord. Yay. Okay. There we go. First of all, now... Creation Kit. Skyrim. Install. Now, the weird thing is, they only have one Creation Kit for both games. You actually are required to have Special Edition in order to get the Creation Kit. So, If you only have regular Skyrim, you will not be able to download this. You will need to get a copy of Special Edition. That being said, Special Edition is usually on sale on Steam for a relatively low price, usually during their Steam sales. I technically got it for free because I already had Skyrim Legendary Edition when Skyrim Special Edition was released. But just an FYI, you will need that in order to get the creation kit. So we're going to go ahead and install that and wait for that. Shouldn't take too long because I do have a fairly good computer and it doesn't take up that much space. Wonderful, installed correctly. And we go ahead and hit play. Yes, I wanted to make changes, thank you. And it needs to install the C++ redistributable. Yes, please. Because it needs all of the scripts. It needs to unzip it to your data folder so that it can load all of your mods. So we'll just give that a minute. Thank you guys for your patience while we get all of this set up. So I was actually going through the last little bits of installing all of these mods in between our last session last week and today, and what I was doing was making sure there were no mods that I really kind of need for my playthrough, and also making sure that all of the mods that I did have were actually downloaded from the Skyrim Special Edition page, because whenever I see that error, I always tend to err on the side of this is my mistake, as opposed to the tool is wrong. So I went back, I made sure that I had actually downloaded all of these mods from the Special Edition Nexus page rather than the Skyrim Nexus page, and then once I did that, I tried reinstalling them to make sure that they were still in the correct load order, making sure that they weren't being entirely overwritten in an odd way, things like that. But that was not the case for any of them, and so I actually went looking to see if anybody else was having this issue, and it turns out that they did. It's an update to Vortex that is actually making them show that now. They didn't show that before, and it was actually causing a lot of issues where people would be, especially for Skyrim and Skyrim Special Edition, they would be finding mods and installing them. The Vortex mod loader wouldn't be warning them that this isn't for this particular game. People would log in and try to play and wonder why the mods were failing. So they added in that extra bit of, checking of, is this actually for Skyrim Special Edition or not? The downside of that being, there were a lot of mods that were for originally Skyrim Legendary Edition that could be loaded by Skyrim Special Edition without any changes being made to them, especially a lot of patches. So all the mod authors did was basically make a new mod page on the Special Edition Nexus, reload their mod to that, and say, yes, this is literally just a copy, I just went and ported it over, and it should work. But now there's something about the flag that is now saying, hey, this isn't compatible, and Vortex may not load it correctly. So we're just going to try our best to make sure that we can do that, that we can change that flag, that warning, so that it's not going to be yelling at us saying, hey, this is the wrong mod file type for this game, so that way we don't have any issues as far as Vortex actually trying to load these mods. Because, again, technically it should work, but if Vortex decides to throw an error or not load it because it's not for the right game type, that's when we would run into issues. So as you can see, it's basically having to read through all of our scripts here and it's actually loading in all of the scripts as well, which is why it's taking so long. There's actually a lot of script work that goes into a lot of these mods. Obviously not so much the light plugins, but any of our regular plugins are almost guaranteed to have different scripts, even ones that technically only affect texture, because with the texture also comes some differences in lighting, for example. So it can run some minor scripts in order to kind of reset that and make that look a little better. Obviously, anything with lighting, anything that adds functionality, is going to have a whole bunch of scripts attached to it. And the Creation Kit launcher actually needs to read all of those, because what it's doing is it's actually launching everything about the game. It's kind of preloading it, so that way when you do go and open something, it doesn't have to, like, super search for it. It knows exactly what you have, and you can go in and say, this is what I want to use. Only needs about another 45 seconds here. I mean, it's got to copy 15,000 items, so, you know, it's gonna take a minute. And we're down to under 500, so, again, about another 10 seconds or so. And we're good. Has some files with the same names. We'll go ahead and say replace for now. If we need to reinstall something later, we can. But I think that that's just so this can load. So the first thing you'll notice is that you've got a whole bunch of choices over here that let you select what you want to work with. We're actually going to close this for right now because we don't need it right now. We're also going to just move cell view over to here because we're not actually going to need that either. We're going to go over here and we're going to hit data. And the first one that we want to find is this Hunters Not Bandits. So it's going to load it in the order of how it's actually going to be loaded. You can't actually sort it, but what we're going to do is just try our best to find it in this list. And I really wish that they would have a search, but unfortunately not. Actually, we're going to go with this one. We're going to go with Ice Penguin World Map, because that's one that we actually need to update. So, you have to double-click it in order to activate it, and then click OK. You have not set a file as the... okay, no. So we want to set that as the active file first, and then click OK. Didn't know they added that. Usually double-clicking on it is what turned it to the active file. So now it's taking a second to go ahead and load all of the files that are associated with that particular mod file. Which will take a minute. On your computer it may run a little faster because I'm running it with Vortex also running and OBS also running, which both take a little bit of a toll on the computer. So it's going to take a little while longer to load on my end, but that's okay. Could not find. We'll go ahead and just hit yes on this one. We'll go ahead and hit yes to all. I'm not sure exactly what it's yelling about there, but basically this is supposed to be referencing something and it can't find it, possibly because we don't have... Okay, so this is yelling at us about a door to Ingal Barrow specifically. Probably because it's not supposed to be auto-loaded quite yet, which is odd. So we'll just go ahead and hit yes to all there. Again, we're not looking to do much with this. We're looking to simply change this so that hopefully Vortex recognizes it as a special edition mod. Any other edits to these mods we're going to be doing an SSE edit. And we'll deal with those once we get there, but that's going to be another few steps. That's actually the last step that we're going to be wanting to take, because once you hit that step, that's when you're actually going in and copying certain bits of data from one mod to another to make sure that even though they're overwriting each other, you want to really make sure that they aren't being co-loaded together, especially when it comes to landscape changes. But again, we'll be getting to that later after we go through making sure that these are fine, showing you how to load everything, how to make the bash patch, etc., etc. So, we'll get there, don't worry. We're just waiting on this to finish validating the forms. And again, if you guys have any questions about any of this, feel free to ask me in the chat. That's what I'm here for, especially while we're waiting for stuff to load. Oh, generic commander. Okay, so quick how-to of how to read this. So it's giving a warning about the dialogue, obviously. This info in this topic in a quest for DLC 2. So DLC only refers to the three main, obviously, DLCs for Skyrim. DLC 1 is... DLC 1 is, I believe, Dawnguard. DLC 2 is Dragonborn, and DLC 3 is Hearthfire. So in this case, it's yelling about DLC 2, dialogue, generic commanded Dark Elf. So this would probably be one of the Dark Elves, or Dunmer, on Solstheim, who's being commanded by Mirak. Passes for voice-type DLC 2 female Dark Elf Commoner, which is this, but the shared MQ Skyhaven Sparring Blink, from which it draws its response data, does not. So MQ means that this is actually a different mod, which is Mod Quest Skyhaven Sparring Blink. So this mod, for some reason, can't, is supposed to be editing this, specifically editing response data, but it can't. which is again something that we're going to be fixing later, because we'll be seeing that it can't draw that from wherever it needs to when we go into SSE edit. There'll probably be a section within there called dialogue where we'll actually be able to drag that over and fix that. So for right now, we're just going to hit yes to all, because it'll basically say, I don't care about that right now. And again, QA book has this invalid character. Again, doesn't really matter. It's yelling at things that have been changed, but it's okay. And then this is going to show you all of your warnings in case you want to save all of them. Which, again, I'm really not going to do right now because we're going to be seeing all of these warnings and discrepancies and issues in SSE Edit as well. So we're just going to go ahead and hit clear on those and close that out. And then we have this cell view. Now, what I'm wondering is, I don't think we need to validate forms. And obviously, if you ever need to, you can go back here and click View Warnings, but... And obviously you can convert the active file to a light master. You can export just about anything from this into some other area. So you can export the dialogue, the quest stages, pretty much anything into another section. I'm just trying to find where they would have this. This is gameplay settings. It would also help if these had, little things that tell you what these do. Is that actually a preference? No, it is not. Darn. Close. Okay. Okay. Give me one moment, folks. The Macho Man mod. That, unfortunately, would conflict with several mods that I already have, so... Unfortunately, no. How to update Skyrim mod for SSE. Porting Skyrim mods to Special Edition. Oh. Apparently you just need to save it again. So we'll just go ahead and... Well, first we have to change something, so let's go ahead and... double-click on this cell, I guess. And don't worry, any change that we make, we're going to be changing right back so that there's no issues with it. But we need to change something and then change it back. Yes to all, I don't care. Those are issues with other mods. Yes. Again, I don't care. Again, yes, I don't care. Go away. Edit. Okay. So there's actually a lot of different things that you can change about this. So, what we're gonna do is we're actually just gonna take this common data and we're gonna check this and click OK. And then we're gonna open it again, check this again, and click OK. And then File, Save. And there we go. That should, keyword being should, change that over. And we're actually going to go ahead and close out of Creation Kit, so that way it's not being loaded by Creation Kit anymore. But you'll notice that it did automatically recognize that something else had happened. And so now it's actually resorting. We are going to go ahead and hit Deploy Mods again, and see if that fixes it. It should. Again, keyword being should. Yeah, so you'll see that it's saying, hey, there was a change to this, and there was also a change to this. So we're going to say use newer files and hit confirm. And hit dismiss, because we don't care about anything that is considered... Aha! Yep, so you see, Ice Penguin World Map is no longer listed in the section of mods that have incompatible. So we have successfully fixed that. It is now listed as for Skyrim Special Edition. And so now, we just need to do that for the rest of these. Which, thankfully, again, shouldn't take as long, because we already have this downloaded. So, we need to go through... I don't care about the cell window. File... where was it? Yes, for anybody wondering why we're doing this, I was playing through a mod pack up until recently, and then my computer decided to have some issues. I needed to completely reinstall my my operating system. Like, I had to reinstall Windows, and then I needed to reinstall all of my programs. And along with that was Vortex, and for some reason my Vortex backup that I had didn't actually move in all of the mod files. It moved in all of the ESPs, but it did not load in all of the actual mod files. So even with the ESPs there, I would have had to reinstall all of the mods, then copy in the plugins and hope that it still worked. And at that point, it was just I asked people, what do they want? Do you want me to try to fix this and continue with the old playthrough? Do you guys want to see a new playthrough? Most people said they wanted to see a new playthrough with somewhat different mods, so I went ahead and said, okay, we'll go ahead and do that. So that's what we're doing. I'm actually going through and showing you guys how I'm going to be using all of these different mods and how they all work. So that's what we're working on right now. Okay, there we go. Everything minimized for some reason. So, we are looking for any of these that are in this list here. Again, it's really dumb that you can't search or sort or anything. It would be highly, basically, it would be very nice. And yes, I can hear you talking to Abe. Even with the door closed. Okay, so again, we found test MXPF-3 ESP, which is right here, and we do have to do these one at a time, unfortunately, otherwise the creation kit is going to yell at us. So we'll set that as the active, we'll go ahead and load this. And again, I do apologize that a lot of this seems very tedious, a lot of it seems very bleh as far as content, and there is part of me that knows that, but I did want to give you guys a chance to see, how much actually goes into making these mod packs. And keep in mind that my mod pack is not really one that is what they would consider a mega pack. For example, I don't know if any of you who were watching were there when someone asked me if I was using Lexi's. Lexi's mod pack is our mod pack has several hundred, Lexi's has several thousand, and it is a giant multi-step process that requires all of these tools and more to get working. Anybody who wants to see about that, you guys can go ahead and just look up Lexi's LOD for Legacy of Dragonborn, and take a look at the step-by-step guide of how to do that. I have. I actually considered doing that for this particular playthrough. However, oddly enough, it actually doesn't include all of the different mods that add displays to the museum. So, for me, who wanted to do a playthrough where it does add all of the different displays to the museum, it wasn't the best choice for me personally. But it is a wonderful mod pack if you really want to push the limits of what you can do with Skyrim and with modding. I highly recommend it. I will say it is for experienced modders only. I would have trouble trying to go through it, but if I can at least, show you guys how to use these different tools and what they do and explain how to install them and what all of these random warnings mean, then hopefully I can make it a little bit easier for other people to go ahead and use these. So again, we're just going to do the same thing as before. We're just going to uncheck that can't travel from here, hit OK, hit edit again, recheck it, hit OK, file, save, and that's all we need to do. And then we can close this, I believe. And we'll just have to redeploy it from here. And yes, you do have to close it every single time, otherwise the ESP will stay loaded in Creation Kit and actually won't be available for Vortex to try to work with. So, that is one thing that you need to keep in mind, because it does seem pretty tedious for me to keep closing the Creation Kit and reopening it, but there's no way to, like, you would have to go and, like, select a different mod, but then you wouldn't be able to deploy it. I always prefer saving, closing out, redeploying, and then going to the next one, just so that way, if I happen to change something I didn't want to, or make a mistake later on down the line, I don't have to close out of everything and lose all of my changes. I only have to go back and redo some of them. So we're just going to wait and make sure that this one goes away, because it is still sorting and loading. Now this one, we may have to change all 3 of these before it'll go away, because they are all a part of the same mod, but we'll see. Yeah, we may have to change all of these. So let's go back in and change MXF-1 and -2. Oh no, it actually went away. It just took a second. Okay. Good, good. Again, don't need the object window. Data. And we'll do test MXF.1, double click, set as active. Okay. And again, once you get into the rhythm... Oh, hello! Welcome! Thank you for joining us! Yes. Thank you. We're currently at the second stage, I would say, of the building of the mod pack, the coagulation, as you call it, where we're having to make sure that all of our mods are flagged as proper for special edition before we go ahead and start sorting them and making bash patches and stuff like that. So, again, a little boring. I don't blame people for not wanting to stick around for each of the sections, or the entirety of each of the sections, but it is still kind of nice to see what tools are out there and how to use them. So the lesson we've learned so far with the Creation Kit is it doesn't matter what warnings it yells at you about it. We're gonna, if there are any that we need to deal with, we'll be dealing with them in SSE Edit. Right now, the only thing we're doing in the Creation Kit is loading each of these, changing something, changing it back, and then saving it, so that way the mod is saved as a special edition mod, which is actually all that you need to do for any of these light plugins. So, right now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them left. We are currently working on this one, and then once that's done, I'll be able to show you how to go about organizing the mods. And then the real coagulation comes in with the absolute last step, which is the SSE Edit step. Yes, I don't care about invalid characters in books. I don't care about any of those, actually. So, all we've been doing in order to edit this a little bit is you just pick a section. This section, this Aftland section, is actually really easy for this because it's right there towards the top of the list. You hit edit, and you'll notice that there's this nice little checkbox that you can uncheck here. So we're just unchecking it, clicking OK, it stays highlighted even though it closes. You go ahead, hit edit again, recheck it, and hit OK again, and then file, save. And that's all you have to do. You need to make some sort of change, and then change it back and save it. Oh. Going back into work. Ugh, that's the worst. And save. Just to make sure. Well, I'm sorry that you're having to deal with work, Ken. And then all we need to do is go back and hit deploy mods again. And you'll notice that it warns you. It says, hey, this particular mod now has one newer file. You just make sure that it says use newer file and hit confirm. And the only reason it's newer is because we saved it, even though it's exactly the same, except for being now for SSE. And we can just click dismiss on that. And so now if we give this a second, it'll go ahead and clear this one out of our list. We'll just wait for that. Yep, and you see, just as it finished loading, that one has now disappeared, so we only have MXPF2. Again, we can just close that for right now. Test MXPF-2, set as active, click OK. Don't mind me as I tuck my hands into the heated blanket while I wait for all of this to load. It's very cold up here, but Tyler and I got ourselves some nice heated blankets over the last week that we can use. So I'll be tucking my hands under the blanket to warm them up a little bit so I don't lose circulation in my fingers. To be honest, it was one of the best decisions that we made. Oof. Oh. Hello? Oh. I've been up and walking all day, and suddenly my Apple Watch decides to yell at me to stand because I've been sitting for... okay, a little over an hour, but still. I'm in the middle of something, jeez. Almost done here. Oh, excuse me. Oh. So how's everybody's weekends been going? Mine's been going pretty well so far. Tyler and I made a stop into Office Max and Barnes & Noble earlier just to walk around a little bit and enjoy being out of the house in areas that there still weren't a lot of people. Right, and again, deploy. Yes, we want to use the new file. So now, once this reloads, we should have all of the MXPF mod files cleared out now, and we can focus on the rest of these. Yep, okay, perfect. Wait, it's... No, there it goes. Okay, I was gonna say, wait, it's still there? That's not right. No, it just decided to tease us a little bit, I guess. Okay, so now we're looking for hunters, not bandits, anything for the realistic children, or TCBM. Again, unfortunately, you can't sort by anything, so you just have to slowly scroll through each one of all of our mods. And if you see one that I did pass, just let me know. Ah, there's TCBM. Perfect. Ah, the Thieves Guild for the Good Guys. Yes, we definitely want to make sure that that one loads properly, because that's a really good mod that I like. It's a little bit of an overhaul for the Thieves Guild questline that basically makes you feel like, for any of you who have played Oblivion, you'll understand this, that when you were part of the Thieves Guild in Oblivion, and working with the Grey Fox, it was a very Robin Hood feel, you know, robbing the rich to feed the poor kind of style. Whereas in Skyrim, there was still a little bit of that, but it was more of a true... It was more of a true neutral than a neutral good, or say chaotic good, that the Thieves Guild in yes, to all go away, than the Thieves Guild in Oblivion was. So this mod, taking care of business, Thieves Guild questline overhaul, it kind of tries to bring back that more Robin Hood feel of being a part of the Thieves Guild, mainly by trying to remove Maven from the picture, which is... That's good for the soul right there, because it's almost like Harry Potter, where, yeah, Voldemort is the big bad evil guy, but everybody hates Umbridge. You know, there's a couple of people who could be considered the big bad evil guys for various quests in Skyrim, with, of course, Alduin being the main big bad evil guy. But I don't think I've come across anybody who really likes Maven as a character. They'll recognize that she's a very well done character, and that whoever her voice actor was absolutely spot on with getting her character personality. But nobody likes her at all. So being able to give her comeuppance with this mod is very, very nice. And it doesn't matter whether she becomes Jarl or not, is the best part, depending on which way you go with the Civil War. So, yes, I don't care. So it's a very fun mod, one that I highly recommend for anybody who really likes the Thieves Guild questline, but feels that some of the things that you need to do in order to get started, can kind of leave a bad taste in your mouth. For example, like, the very first thing you need to do is put an innocent man in jail, because somebody wants him out of the way. And this mod gives you the option to do something else, rather than have him be, put in jail for a while. And it also reintroduces a couple of things where you can work with the homeless, the people that you can give gold to, because they were always considered allies of the Thieves Guild in Oblivion, and it was actually one of the main things of the Thieves Guild is you do not rob from them, they are our allies, and it was kinda disappointing that they had that whole section of it removed, between Oblivion and Skyrim. We're gonna go ahead and hit yes, because I'm pretty sure that's just because it got overwritten by something else. Yeah, I don't care. Save. Yes. Alright, I'm gonna close this, and I think that should still be all we need to do. I don't think we have to clear those warnings in order to do anything with this. So we'll go ahead and deploy mods. Yeah, so it's saying, hey, we've got... Oh yeah, especially because it's just for the hotfix. And dismiss. And so now once this reloads, we'll just make sure that this does in fact go away. Yeah, it also does require cleaning, which is another thing that we're going to be looking at, but that requires a different tool that I'll be showing you how to use later. Actually, it requires SSE edit, so again, it'll be one of those last things that we do. Yes, it does go away. Perfect. Okay. So now we just have the two realistic children patches and the hunters not bandits, which should be lower towards the load order. So We'll just have to see. Actually gonna go ahead and scroll all the way down. And you can see how after we save that, it automatically goes to the bottom of the load order, which is why we're doing this before we sort everything. Because if we did it after we sorted everything, then they would go down to the bottom, and then we would have to resort, which is never really a fun time. It's better to sort as few times as possible. But we were able to go to the bottom and find these two, which are the next things that we need. So we're just going to do the Helgen Reborn patch first. Why? Because I chose to do that one first, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. And again, some of these patches will have more errors than others because they're going to be referencing things that are in the main mod file, which is why I'm disregarding a lot of these errors that pop up. If it is something that will interfere with how it loads, or if it's something that's overwritten and it would be better off being directly written over to the main mod, then that's something that we will deal with in SSE Edit when we actually start to edit the mod files. But as far as editing mod files, really the only change... I would only recommend using the creation kit when you absolutely have to. For something like this, where you need to change it over to be a different format or something like that. Otherwise, if there are other changes that need to be made, I would more recommend using SSE Edit, if only for the fact that it has certain features like you have the option to back up your files, you have the option to back up your load order, it can show you better which mods need work done to them. Basically, there's a whole lot of functionality in there that makes it really user-friendly, whereas the creation kit was more made for experienced modders who wanted to make or resave Skyrim mods. So, again, I'm using it right now because I have to in order to get these mods to work with Skyrim Special Edition. But I'm not going to be editing anything in here. I'm just forcing it to resave it. Because I know that even if I tried to edit things in here, I'll be honest, I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to editing mods in the creation kit. Obviously some things are pretty easy with there being checkboxes and stuff, but it can be it doesn't check to make sure that anything you're doing is then compatible with any of your other mods, because you can only load one mod file at a time. Whereas with SSE Edit, you can load pretty much as many of them as you want, and it'll check all of them against each other and tell you whether or not they can work together or not. And if there are conflicts, it'll point them out to you, and you can go into all of the mod data at once and be able to edit it from there. Creation Kit doesn't let you do that. You have to go into each area separately, you have to go into each mod file separately. It won't warn you if the changes you make then make it completely incompatible with something else. It's just a mess. So, for something simple like this, fine. I can go in, I can change something, change it back, and save it. That's fine. But otherwise, the creation kit is exactly that. It's a creation kit, not an edit kit. So, just waiting for this to continue validating forms here. Again, probably taking a hot minute because this is a patch, so it's trying to validate all of these different form IDs with things that may or may not be loaded right now because they may be form IDs from the parent mod. It takes a hot second. Just give it time. Yep, just like I said. Yeah, okay, go ahead, go away. Ah, now this one, you'll see, has a bunch of others up at the top. Because they included a bunch of new locations. Why? I don't know. But we're still just gonna stick with this one, because we know that this one's easy. Just click that. Click that. Okay. File. Save. Yes to all. Yes to all. Go away. I don't care. Again, it's trying to find stuff that is in a different mod file, is why it's yelling. We will be fixing that later. Hello? There we go. Yep, warning us again. Confirm. Okay, good. My blanket is still on. Whew. Warm my hands. Okay, go back over here, make sure that this one goes away. And then we know where this one is already, and then we'll just have to find this one, which honestly could be anywhere in the mod pack. There we go. Okay. Alright, 2 to go. Right, that's exactly it. Especially because, again, you have to remember, when you're loading anything in Creation Kit, you're only loading that file. So, that, especially for a patch, where it's going to be saying, reference this form ID, that isn't a part of this file, the patch knows that. The patch has the file path for what it's looking for. But technically that file path isn't a part of this mod. So the Creation Kit is yelling and screaming saying, I don't have what I need! When it's like, well, no duh, it's a patch. I know it doesn't. It's referring to something that that is in a different file. This file doesn't have everything that it needs because it's a patch. So, or it'll be referencing something in Skyrim itself, which also technically isn't loaded right now. You'll see that Skyrim ESM isn't even loaded. It's not loaded, it's not active. So anything referencing Skyrim itself, it's gonna be yelling about, because it's like, you're referencing this and it doesn't exist. Yeah, it's up there. It's in the main game. It's fine. Okay, so now we need the RRSC CRF, which is the cutting room floor patch. And then we'll just need to find hunters, not bandits. At least the long loading times gives me time to tuck my hands under the blanket and warm them back up because my hands are freezing. Potentially duplicate land. Yes, I know. I know. Yes, potentially duplicate land basically means that there is an identical to master or ITM record. That is one of the things that we are going to be dealing with in SSE Edit. There is actually a whole guide when you go into the load optimizer tool that you can click on it and it'll tell you here's exactly what you need to do in order to clean identical to master records. And it's highly recommended that you do so if there are any, but Loot will tell you that there are identical to masters, which all that means is obviously Skyrim has its own sets of data, specifically locations is usually where it goes. And Skyrim.esm is set as what's called a master record. Basically, it is needed in order to load anything else. Well, then for the DLCs, they are also technically ESMs, but Skyrim.esm is set as a master for those particular files. So when those get loaded, by default, all of the DLCs actually have records that are identical to the ones in Skyrim, mainly because they needed to, while they were developing everything, bring those assets in so that they could make the mod itself. So there are more of them in Dawnguard than there are in Dragonborn, for example, because Dragonborn takes place on an entirely different land area, but it still does affect some things within the main Skyrim area. But Dawnguard obviously happens within the same world space. You don't have to... I think the only thing that you need to like take a different transport for is for the Volkihar Keep. But like for Dayspring Canyon, there's a little like cave that you have to go through in order to get there, but it edits a lot more of the actual world than Dragonborn does. So it has more identical to master records than Dawnguard has more identical to master records than Dragonborn. So all you're doing by going in and clearing those out is you're making it that there's no confusion as to which file is being referenced, which any sort of confusion like that can increase load times, and just the fact that you're loading two identical things at once. You're loading more than you have to. So it basically cuts down on the amount of conflict that there is and the amount of processing that it needs to do in order to load everything. Edit. Yes to all. Yes to all. Go away. Close. Alright. And redeploy. again, it's going to warn us that, hey, there's a different file here that's newer than the one you previously had installed. Yes, I know, that's the point. TM. How many mods are like this? Again, we only had 7 of them, in our entire list of, over 500, so not that many. We only have one more that we need to find. We just did this one, so this one will be disappearing from our list, and then we just have hunters, not bandits. So we'll just need to find that one. I know it seems like a long time, because it kind of is, but trust me when I say that it is worth it to do this, because otherwise every other tool that you use is going to be yelling at you about this, and Vortex may not load it properly. So it's tedious, it's a pain in the ass, I know, but it's worth it. Okay, so now we need to try to find hunters, not bandits. I'm gonna start at the bottom and scroll my way up, because it is a relatively, how do I want to put it? It's one of those little patch-type mods. It doesn't change a whole lot, so it's probably down here somewhere. Of course, I could be entirely wrong. I don't know. Again, I really wish that you could sort by the name, but you can't. There it is. Last one. Set as active. And in case you're wondering what Hunters Not Bandits does, all it does is change the voice files of the random hunters that you can come across, so that they're not yelling at the animals like bandits yell at you or any of their victims. Because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense that they would be that hostile. So it's just a little quality of life add-on that I really wanted to have, because, I mean, admittedly it's funny, hearing some big burly hunter yelling at a tiny little rabbit, "You won't leave here alive!" But it does get a little annoying after a while. again, long loading times means I get a minute to warm my hands. It's the little things. Yeah. Go away. And again, just edit. Oop. Edit. Oop. Save. And that should be it. So now all we need to do is redeploy one more time. I'm going to go ahead and close the creation kit entirely, along with the Bethesda.net launcher, because now we do not need it. Confirm. Well, okay, we shouldn't need it. Watch this one be the one that doesn't work, because that's just my look. Yeah. And we'll just wait for this one to reload, and just make sure that this disappears. There's no reason it shouldn't. Hey, okay, perfect. So now we do not have any incompatible mods. Now, the other thing that I wanted to address here are a couple of these other ones. So, you can look at which ones are masters, which just means that these are set as being required for other mods. Light means that these are plugins that don't actually take up space in your load order. So they'll have this little feather icon next to them, and you'll notice that they have an entirely different section up here. So technically you can only have 256 mods, but that's the number of active mods that we can have, and then we can have up to 4,096 light mods. As you can see, we're nowhere close to that. But if you wanted to look at just which light mods you had, that's what this is for. You have your loads archive. That is, that one's a little hard to explain. So basically, there are certain mods in here that are basically archives of data and archives of like form IDs or script IDs and things like that that are required. So that's kind of what that means. So all of these are loading some sort of bigger data set, if that makes sense. I know I'm probably doing a really bad job of explaining that, but could be light is another one here. Now, you may be wondering, well, if mod being light means it takes it out of your load order, and that means you would be able to have more mods, why don't you change all of these to being light mods? And there's actually a very good reason for that. Technically, light mods are loaded alongside non-light mods, but they are loaded differently. So there is a higher chance of a light mod not actually loading properly if it is loaded as a light mod versus a non-light mod. So most of them that can be light mods have been made light mods by the mod authors already, because mod authors usually are very, very good about recognizing when their mod can be light and making it a light plugin, so that way you can use it in bigger mod packs. If it's not already set to be a light plugin, by the mod author unless I am like 10,000% sure that it can be loaded as light without affecting the game too much. For example, let's say if I had a mod that only replaced... Okay, so for example, before the Nirnroot sound effect was replaced by the improved sounds mod that I have, I used to have a mod that only changed the sound of the Nirnroot. If that was listed as a non-light plugin, because it's only changing one thing in the game, that one I might change to be a light mod. But any of these that aren't, so for example, like the RS Children ESP is saying that it could be light, I'm not going to change that because that's actually a main mod. It's only being listed as light, or as could be light, because it only affects the appearance of things. But if it isn't given that priority of not being a light mod, then it may not load it properly. So any of these, I'm actually just going to leave because A, I haven't hit my mod limit yet, and B, I just really don't want to deal with the possibility of anything going wrong. And yes, aggressive Nirnroot noises. Native is just which ones are native to the actual game. So that's just Skyrim, the update, Dawnguard, Hearthfires, and Dragonborn. Those are the native files. Dirty files. Dirty files are ones that that can be cleaned. So they'll have these things that say require cleaning, loot. You'll be seeing which ones those are when we go into the load order optimizer tool, and you'll see what I mean by, requires cleaning loot. Most of it is identical to Master Records. It could be other things, though. There are some mods that have a special flag on them that says, do not clean. There's only a handful of them that say that, and it's usually because they load a reference that, for example, has an identical name to the one in the base game, but it's actually a replacer. There's only a handful of mods that do that. You do want to keep an eye out for it, but there won't be a whole lot of them that fall into that category. Warnings is the one that we just were looking at, because warnings goes right along with incompatible, where it's yelling at you saying, this thing has an issue where it will not load. If anything shows up with a warning or is listed as incompatible, you want to try to look it up and try your hardest to get it so that it's not giving a warning and that it's not listed as incompatible, because usually Vortex will only put it there if it itself is having an issue loading everything that the mod needs. So, and then loot messages is exactly what it says. So you'll see that it'll have this little speech bubble next to it that says loot messages. We will be seeing all of those when we go into loot. Some of them have higher messages than others. You'll see those as the orange ones, which usually means that there's a loot warning about it. But again, we will see those when we go into loot, which is actually, I believe, where we are going to... Oh no, that's not where we're going to be going next. So, after you're done with all of that, there's one thing that you always want to run before you start working on your load order, and that is For's New Idols in Skyrim. Why do you want to load For's New Idols in Skyrim before you do anything else? Well, the main reason is loot will yell at you until you run For's New Idols in Skyrim. Because loot takes animations into account when it is trying to optimize load order. If it can't find all of those animation files, because a lot of mods that add animations, they technically come with the animation scripts, but they come with them in such a way that you need to actually run FNIS in order for them to be stored in the proper place and loaded by the character. So if you go to run loop before you run FNIS, it's going to say, hey, I see that you have FNIS installed, and I see that you have mods that are trying to add animation files, but those animation files aren't where they need to be in the folders in order for me to determine where in the load order these things need to be placed. So run FNIS first, and then run loot. So we're going to go ahead. FNIS is really easy. You install it the same as you would any other mod, and then from Vortex, you can go in and you can hit edit. You just want to make sure that it's going to wherever Generate FNIS for Users is going within your Skyrim Special Edition data folder, and make sure that it's going to the proper folder here as well. Vortex should do that automatically. If you're running more than one, if you're managing more than one game within Vortex, you may just have to double check when you're going into that second game to make sure that it's set correctly. Because oddly enough, FNIS also works for Morrowind, Oblivion, as well as Fallout, even though it's listed as Force New Idols for Skyrim. They have versions for other games as well. So you'll notice that it does have a limit of 10,000 animations. That's a lot of animations. We won't have anywhere near that. But once you load it, you are going to want a couple of things checked. You're going to want this gender-specific animations checked. It'll help divvy out which files are meant for characters with a female skeleton versus characters with a male skeleton. Not that I particularly care, but, and there's most of the time same styles of animations for both, but if it doesn't differentiate them, it can lead to some weird clipping issues. If you're ever using a skeleton replacer, which we are, you want to make sure it has this skeleton arm fix. Again, that's just to minimize clipping, because FNIS will try to overwrite certain things unless you have that checked. Any mods that you have, excuse me, that add in certain alternate animations. So you can see a lot of them here, TK Dodge, PC Exclusive Animation Path, and it warns you which ones are not available for Skyrim Special Edition, so you shouldn't have those. But you'll notice that the one that we do have, which is Archery Gameplay Overhaul, is already checked here, so that's fine. The only other one that I like to check is this HKX File Compatibility Check Skyrim/SSE. All that will do is make sure that any animation files, which is the HKX file, are compatible with the game edition that we have. It may yell about some of them, but it's better to still know if it thinks any of them are not compatible, so that way if you do start having issues with a mod later on, when it's trying to load certain animations, you can go back to FNIS and see if those were listed as not compatible, and try to figure out how to fix it from there. So once you have all of those checked, we're going to go ahead and just click Update FNIS Behavior. And you'll see that it's saying, okay, we have the FNIS base and XP MSE, which is our new skeleton. And it already has these patches. And so now it's generating the behavior files. And it didn't give us any issues. We are going to go ahead and click Consistence Check. And it says 0 possible consistence issues. Which means it was able to load all of our animations, it didn't see any issues with them, and it was determined that all of them were compatible with Skyrim Special Edition. Perfect. Once you're done, just click Exit. Okay, now that we've run FNIS, we can move on to our next tool, which is loot. Again, you just want to make sure that it is loading in the proper thing. So in this case, it's a bit different from FNIS because you don't install it as a mod. It's actually a program. So you want to install it somewhere outside of your game directory, and then you want to set this start in to your game folder. So in this case, to Skyrim Special Edition. But you'll notice that the target, which is where it's going to launch the exe from, is its own program path. So we'll go ahead and we will click run on this. Excuse me. Got something stuck in my throat. And I know it's got a lot of errors right now, but first we're going to... So you'll see it has the latest loot thread. Because we hadn't run FNIS before, it's going to say, it appears you have Force New Idols in Skyrim SE installed. Remember to run it every time. It'll say whether your game is up to date, whether your script extender is up to date, and whether you've sorted the load order this session. So we haven't loaded it, we're going to go ahead and load it. So loot takes a whole bunch of different things into account, including which files are masters of which ones are light plugins, which ones are script heavy, which ones are texture heavy, and which ones are overwrites of other files, in order to sort them. So now it is sorted. You'll see we have a special master list revision and the date. It'll give us... Now, it has a different list of what are active plugins versus non-active plugins. For loot, active plugins are all of the plugins that are set to enabled. So it includes light and standard plugins. So don't worry about it saying you suddenly have 519 plugins. You're still not going over your technical load order. We have 33 warnings, we have 11 errors, and 80 total messages. Some of these messages aren't going to mean anything, some of the warnings aren't going to be ones you're going to have to worry about. The errors are the ones that you really want to pay attention to, because errors are basically bigger warnings. They're things that are saying, hey, this really isn't compatible, these mods aren't compatible, take care of this. So to make this easy on ourselves, we're actually going to go over and click on Filters. Now, you can select only conflicting plugins for a particular other plugin. If you're having issues with loading a particular mod, that's a great tool for this. For right now, because we haven't loaded anything and we're not having issues with anything in particular yet, what we are going to say is hide messageless plugins. We're also going to hide inactive plugins, because we really don't care about those. If they're inactive, they're not loaded, the game isn't doing anything with them, we don't care. So all we're left with are the active plugins that have a message. And you'll see how it's hiding no messages, but it is hiding 462 out of the 526 mods. So it makes it a lot easier for us to scroll through. Most of these are going to be these ITM record warnings, which is what I was talking about earlier, which is identical to master. It also has a bunch of deleted references and deleted nav meshes. Deleted references and nav meshes are basically, these are referencing something that is no longer there, and these are navigation meshes that it thinks are supposed to be somewhere but aren't. Usually not too big of a deal, but again, a guide to cleaning plugins using Xedit can be found here. We'll be clicking on that later, but first I want to take a look at all of these warnings, these errors, I should say. So we will just look at, so there is a difference between how they are displayed. So warnings are anything that show up in this yellow color. Messages will just be For example, this. It is recommended that you read this mod's compatibility notes. That message is never going to go away. You want to make sure that it is there. Errors are these ones that are in red. So this is saying this plugin is incompatible with Blowing in the Wind SSE.esp, but both files are present. That's a problem, because if it is incompatible with another one of our mods, it means that those two cannot be loaded at the same time, no ifs, ands, or buts. Therefore, what we're going to have to do is decide which of these we want to get rid of. I'm personally going to choose to get rid of Lanterns of Skyrim, mainly because A, Blowing in the Wind is a really small but really good quality of life mod, A. B, Lanterns of Skyrim mainly updates the look of the lanterns and how the light comes out of the lanterns. And both of those things are already edited by other mods. The look of the lanterns is already updated by both the Static Mesh Improvement mod, as well as the Skyrim 2018 and 2020 high-resolution updates. And the lighting is already updated by the enhanced lightings and effects. So, we're actually going to uninstall Lanterns of Skyrim 2. We'll do that once we're done with everything else here. The other message that you're going to want to be looking for is ones like this, where it says you seem to be using RS Children Overhaul, but you have not enabled a compatibility patch for this mod. A third-party patch is available here. And Loot is great about that, in which it gives you a link to the actual patch. So you can just click on it, it'll open the Nexus. Ta-da! You're in All Games Skyrim Special Edition Mods Patches, RS Children Patch Compendium. Now, how I didn't get this one already, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't included in the faux mod, but I can look. So all we need to do is find... Yeah, see, it says that I haven't downloaded this one yet. So we're gonna go ahead and... Hello, Kayla, welcome! So, because it's yelling at us and saying, hey, you don't have this patch, we're gonna go ahead and download that patch. And you'll see, yeah, it requires RS Children Overhaul. We already have that. Yes, always allow it to open it. It's already open. I don't know why it's trying to open it, but there you go. Okay. Well, it's Loot's job to yell at my computer. That's its job. If it didn't yell at me, I wouldn't know what needed to be fixed. So, now we have this. Now, we see this other issue. Well, it's not an issue per se. It's a warning. It's saying, hey, this mod that you have here, Blowing in the Wind, use this mod instead. Now, this is why you always want to wait to uninstall something until you've read all of your other issues. If it's something like this where you need a patch, go ahead and get the patch quickly. You won't install it yet, but go ahead and download it while you've got the link right there. In this case, it's telling us, hey, the mod author has said, because it wouldn't say this unless the mod author actually put a note into the mod itself to do this, use this mod instead. Why is that important? Because, if you remember, up here, it's saying Lanterns of Skyrim 2 is incompatible with Blowing in the Wind. Well, if we can get this mod, maybe this one is compatible with everything else. So, WizKid Signs is a complete retexture. Interesting. All signs react to the wind and move accordingly. No need of blowing in the wind. It also includes a static version for those who wish to have signs. Very nice. So, What that means is because Lanterns of Skyrim 2, yes, it has the visual overhaul, but that's already set to overwrite the other one. But it also includes the movability, which is why it's not compatible with Blowing in the Wind, because it uses different sets of scripts for that. But if we install this only affects the signs. So that way we can uninstall Blowing in the Wind, and then we don't need to actually... all we'll need to do is uninstall Blowing in the Wind. We won't need to uninstall anything else. So we'll go ahead and we'll download this. We're not going to install it yet, because obviously we want to do all of our installs and uninstalls at the same time. We'll just continue going through our loot mod list. And yes, Kayla, it is helpful as fuck. Loot is one of those absolutely must-have mods. Or, it's not actually a mod. One of those must-have tools when it comes to Skyrim modding. So it'll also tell you when there are update patches available. Like for this, Enhanced Lighting and Effects Exteriors, it has a Fixes. So we can go ahead and click on that, and it'll take us right to it. So when was this mod uploaded? Yes, it was definitely uploaded afterwards. So in this case, we don't have an ENB, so we're going to go ahead and just download the regular one. And again, we'll be installing that later. And this is why you always want to make sure that you have some wiggle room in your load order, and make sure that you don't have the absolute limit of mods that you can have, because otherwise you're gonna run into issues like this, where it'll be letting you know, hey, there's a new patch for this, hey, these aren't compatible, you may want to install this instead, and it can grow your load order a little bit. So always make sure you have, I'd say, at least 10 mod slots available before you run into this. If you run through all of this and you still have room, feel free to go and add in a couple of more afterwards, but always make sure you get a core down and have some wiggle room available before you do your first sort. So again, Enhanced Lights and Effects, they're going to be yelling at us about ITM records. An update patch is available for Undeath if we wanted Undeath Classical Lichdom. That seems like it's not so much a patch as it is a bit of an overhaul, so let's see. But it does have extensive bug fixes. Interesting. Cast any spell in Lich form, abilities and spells reworked, simple streamlined progression. Okay. Alright. So this not only includes a bunch of, it fixes a bunch of bugs that are, in the original mod. We just need to make sure that it overwrites the skeleton mod, which is fine. All perk and spell mods are fully... rebuilt from scratch for SSE. Okay. Xedit script attached in the optional loads is a soft requirement. Okay. So we're going to open that in a new tab. So install Xedit scripts in your SSE edit directory, then install the Undeath Cleaner files to the same location. Then load this, then click Apply Script, and select this. Save the ESP after you run the script. Okay, that seems pretty simple. So let's go ahead, and then bug fixes, and .NET script framework. Highly recommended as the ability condition bug will otherwise break this mod, especially since it incentivizes very weak players. Make sure you do not have any loose undeath scripts. Okay, so bug fixes at Skyrim Special Edition. Again, this is why you always want to make sure you have some wiggle room, because we then need this bug fixes for SSE, which are always a good thing to have. Any sort of bug fixes mod that is recommended by a different mod, you want to have. And we'll also need our .NET script framework for SSE in order to run. And apparently we also have a DLL plugin loader that we need, which is fine. Again, wiggle room, people. Manual installation only, read instructions. Okay. Okay, so this one's easy. So it's saying, go to your Special Edition file. So mine is a E, Steam Library, Steam Apps, Common, Skyrim Special Edition. We are looking for this. Perfect. We want to rename this to have an underscore. Enter. Perfect. Put this DLL from our download archive into the folder mentioned. So we can actually do that much easier. Show in folder. And we'll just do extract here. Perfect. So we just need to copy this over to, whoops, over to here, paste. So now we have both of them. Anything else? If you did it correctly, you should have 2 in your folder now, and you can start the game. Okay. So then, just to make sure that we can check that this is working later, we're going to go ahead and make a new text document. And we're going to call it this exact wording. Always easier to just copy it and hit enter. And make sure it says .log. That's fine, even if it says it's a type of text document. And then, once we load the game for the first time, it should say what plugins, if any, were checked. So that's fine. So we have the DLL plugin loader. We now have the bug fixes. The edit scripts are right here. So we are going to save as. No, that is not what I need. Actually, I should be able to do that. So we'll just go ahead and save that. Show in folder. Oh no, it's just going to open here. Great, okay. Ah, download zip. That's what I want. Thank goodness for GitHub. Okay. So, show in folder. 7-zip, extract all. Okay. So we have our xedit scripts. So now, README. Always make sure you open a notepad. Collection of several scripts written in Pascal. Oof. Which allow for the execution of useful functions. Put the .pas files and all associated asset files into Skyrim directory ss5edit/edit scripts. Perfect. Okay. So you'll see that all of these are listed right here, and you just want to copy all of these. So we'll just highlight those. Let me go back here. We're going to go back to Skyrim Special Edition here. And where is our edit? So you see that we have the SSE edit. So we're probably going to have to put all of them right in here. So I don't think any of these... Yeah, these aren't going to edit anything. Oh, let me just double check here. Because now I'm second-guessing myself. So I'm actually going to leave this README open here. And I'm actually going to put it up here so that I don't have to juggle things all on one screen. SSE edit/edit scripts. Okay, so I do need to put it somewhere else. So... edit scripts. This is where I need to put everything. Okay, and that's why you always double check the instructions, folks. So we're just going to copy everything from here and paste it into here. Ta-da. Perfect. So we can close that, close that. And then we'll need to clean the base undeath.esp with this script. So we'll deal with that once we get to SSE edits. For right now, I'm just going to minimize this, and we still have this to go through. I'm also going to close this so that I can see you all again. And again, if you guys have any questions about any of this, feel free to ask me. Okay. So, in this case, it's yelling at us about book covers of Skyrim, saying that it is already included in Legacy of the Dragonborn. Yes, seeing is believing. So, the thing with that is, there are a couple of other patches that require this, so I'm hesitant to decide whether to get rid of this or not, even though it's technically included in Legacy of the Dragonborn. I will probably get rid of it, just because I don't think I'll need it. Fort Dawnguard Immersive. You seem to be using Legacy of the Dragonborn, but you have not enabled a compatibility patch, and same with Palaces and Castles Enhanced. Compatibility patch is included with this plugin's installer. Okay, so that's always a nice one to see, because what that means is all we need to do is reinstall Immersive Fort Dawnguard, and it already has the patches that we need for these particular mods. So we won't have to do anything, we don't have to download any patches, we just have to reinstall it and say, yes, I have Legacy of the Dragonborn, and yes, I have Palaces and Castles Enhanced. So we'll fix that. Same with Realistic Boat Bobbing. We'll just have to reinstall it so that we have the patches for Oakwood and Static Mesh Improvement mod. Weapons, armor, and clothing extension. It's highly recommended that you use fixes for armor and clothing extension. So we'll go ahead, we'll click on that. Again, you don't have this, so we'll just go ahead and use Mod Manager download. Oh, and perfect. It's actually listed as an ESL, so we don't have to worry about that counting towards our load order. Go back to loot here. Again, we're not going to install it yet. We're going to wait until we're done going through this entire list. Bandolier for NPC appear to be using Cloaks of Skyrim, but you have not enabled a compatibility patch is included with the plugins installer. Again, we'll just need to reinstall that. Recommended you read the mod's compatibility notes, that's fine. Okay, so we do need the CBBE patch as well. So we have all of these, so we just need to download this. This basically will just make it so that the weapons and armor and clothing fixes that are applied by that mod are available to be used with the new body type that we have. And then there's a few of them that say the plugins masters require sorting. That's fine. Basically, it's like, hey, some of these master files haven't been sorted yet. Now that we're installing some of these, we're gonna be able to sort the masters properly. It's also saying that we can delete this patch, and we need a patch for Skyrim sewers for Palaces and Castles Enhanced, which can be found on the plugin page. Oh, we need a patch for the Dark Brotherhood for the good guys. I think we already have this mod. Yeah, we have the patches. So we just need to reinstall this. The patch is official. So we'll do that later. While we are at it, let me actually look for Palaces and Castles Enhanced. So we'll go here first. This should be where we have the proper patches. Okay, so we just need to reinstall the compatibility patches that we already have, and it'll go ahead and fix that. Perfect. Again, we'll do that later. We'll have to reinstall the Legacy of the Dragonborn patches. So for here, this is a good example of the do not clean message that I was talking about. For some reason, this one wasn't picked up by Vortex, but it's always good to see it in loot and take note of it, where it says, do not clean identical to master records. They are intentional and required for the mod to function. It is safe to undelete records, but do not do anything other than that. So, basically, don't load this one into SSE edit. Don't clean the identical to master records. They are there on purpose. They are required. Leave it. So, we won't touch that one. You appear to be using weapons, armor, clothing, and clutter fixes, but you do not have the compatibility patch, so we'll go ahead and we will make sure we get the compatibility patch. See, I even had it in my old mod pack. You'll see that it was downloaded back in March. ESL flagged ESP. Perfect. We'll just go ahead and download that straight to our mod manager. I'm going to go ahead and close that. I'll close that. We've got that one already, so I'll close that. We also have this one. This one I'm going to leave open because we need these installation instructions, so I'll save that for right now. This one we already have, as well as the exterior lights and effects. So I'm just going to leave this one open. I wanted to close some of those tabs here. Back to loot. Winter Sun Face. It is recommended that you read this. You also need the Winter Sun's Immersive Artifacts patch. Shocker. Again, one that I had in my previous mod pack. We only need this one because we'll be getting rid of book covers in Skyrim. Immersive Weapons. That one's already included in Immersive Weapons CCOR patch. fine, we will deal with that later. Those ones you actually do want to pay attention to, because if it's already included, again, that's going to lead to mod fighting, which just means you're loading the same information twice, which can lead to longer load times and more possibilities of something going wrong. Same with, the Dawnguard Arsenal patch, that's fine. You appear to be using Complete Crafting Overhaul Remastered. Third party is available in Crypto's Patch Hub. Let's just double check here. I downloaded some... Okay, so we have a FOMOD installer, which means that we should be able to just go ahead and rerun this, and it should install it. I'll leave it open just in case we do need to download any of the individuals from here, but we shouldn't have to. Again, more cleaning, more cleaning. You seem to be using RS Children, but you have not enabled a compatibility patch. So we need that one. This one does not have... I mean, it has a FOMOD, but it doesn't... It sort of works. I still prefer downloading some of them from here. But I'll try reloading. I mean, I downloaded the Falscar patch here, so I suppose I'll just re-download this one again for Forgotten City. So we'll go ahead and just download that one. If we reinstall the FOMOD and it does install it properly, that's great, but on the off chance it doesn't, I just want to have the separate file. Again, more ITM records. This is already included in this particular patch, that's fine. Moon and Star Immersion patch is incompatible with Legacy of the Dragonborn, so we'll just have to uninstall that because it's already included, basically. Staff of Sheogorath, delete already in JK Skyrim patch, that's fine. Already in Cloaks patch, that's fine. More compatibility notes. Delete this. USSCP script must take precedence. I'll have to look into that one. And then this plugin is optional. Yeah. We do have a bash patch, so this one actually isn't optional for us, or we will have a bash patch. So we actually really want this one, because this makes sure that all of the leveled lists stay the same once they are imported into the bash patch. That's actually really important for a weapons, armor, and clothing overhaul, because it makes sure that you're not going to be getting weapons and armor especially that are incorrectly leveled for your character. It can either turn out really good, where you end up with an insanely overpowered weapon or piece of armor very early on in the game, or it can really suck because you'll end up finding nothing but iron armor and weapons when you're, level 50. So you want to make sure that that is still there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on all of these compatibility patches, uninstalling the things that we don't need, and going from there. So I'm going to see if I can leave this up on my other screen while I work on the actual Vortex mod list here. I should be able to, because they should run independently, but we will see. So, the first thing that we would need to do is uninstall... Or no, we're not going to uninstall Lanterns of Skyrim. We're going to actually reinstall the Children FOMOD. Whoops. It would help if I could spell. Okay. Okay. Children Overhaul Patch all-in-one installer. That is exactly what we need. So, we're just going to go over here and just click reinstall. You don't have to remove it or select disable. Reinstall is actually probably one of the best features about Vortex that was really missing in Nexus Mod Manager. Reinstall removes everything about the mod from the load and completely reinstalls it as though it were new. Disabling actually doesn't do that. It just sets a flag to off, and then if you re-enable it, it'll just set the flag back to on. Re-enable is the only way to completely 100% remove it and then bring it back in, unless you click remove and then bring it back in, but that's just overkill, because reinstall does the exact same thing. Now, it gives you the option of reinstalling it as a variant. This would come in handy if you were using more than one profile. So let's say, especially for a patch overhaul, that I had different mods active that would interact with this in a different profile. I could install variant 2 that would only use whatever mods are active currently for this particular profile. Or you can do what we're about to do, because we don't have another profile, and say update all profiles. So there won't be a variant, it'll instead just completely reinstall it. So you'll notice that it completely brings up all of our options, so we now have Cutting Room Floor, Falskar, and Helgen Reborn. So finish. But what did we not have is Forgotten City. So we don't need the Falskar patch, but we do need the Forgotten City patch. So we're going to go ahead and enable this one. And now we shouldn't need this one. I'm going to leave it there to make sure that Loot recognizes that we have it, but we're probably not going to need to install it. So there's step 1. Step 2, we have to install the ELFX Exteriors Fix. So, best way to do that is you can go to Status and select Uninstalled. Did it automatically install it? Or is it set to disabled? I guess it was just set to... I guess it was automatically loaded. Oh, no, it's not, because I have that. That's why. Always make sure you clear out your searches before you start clicking on anything else, because the number of times I've tripped up with that is insane. So because I was searching for only things that had the word children in it, it was only showing me that. So if we go to uninstalled, there's all of our other ones. So we need this one. So we'll go ahead and install that. Dismiss. We'll see if it yells at us. Yeah, there are unresolved file conflicts. Click More, Show. So, as far as looking at which ones should overwrite what. So, in this case, it's saying, hey, this Skyrim 2020 Parallax mod has 15 conflicting files with our exteriors fix. Which ones is it actually looking at? It's looking at the exteriors of houses, so it's looking at architecture. So in that case, we want this to actually be loaded after. Why? Because the exteriors fix probably fixes a bunch of things about the original mod that were made to make the original Skyrim textures look better, but in this case, we already have a texture update, and we want the enhanced lightings and effects to recognize that. So we're gonna load this after it to make sure that we're using these nice new textures that we have, which are what NIF files are. Same goes with this. You'll see that these are all meshes, architecture, solitude, or riften. So these are all different exteriors for buildings. So we still want this to be loaded after. Now what about enhanced solitude? Oh yeah, well, actually, this is the exterior fixes, so we definitely want the fixes to overwrite the enhanced lightings and FX. We don't want it to overwrite the enhanced solitude. I'm gonna say we don't want it to overwrite the 2018 either, even though 2018 is already overwritten by 2020. If we do end up with other issues, what are these uploading? Yeah, sure, we'll go ahead and load that after. What is this? Circer House. Yeah, we'll load that before. We'll see if it creates any cyclical mod rules. Yeah, it does. So, what happens when you don't sort things right in that little pop-up that I was just using? You end up with cycles. Now, Vortex makes mod rule cycles very easy to resolve. All you have to do is click Show, and it'll say, hey, you've got these. Now, this looks like a big mess, but the only thing that you really want to look at are the arrows. The arrows are saying, this mod is set to go before this mod. So this mod is overwriting this one. All you need to do is make sure that all of the arrows are pointing in the same direction. It can help to actually click and drag these a little bit. So, for example, if I know that I want the Static Mesh Improvement mod to be loaded after certain things, or to be loaded before certain things. So, for example, in this case, all of these are pointing inwards to the Static Mesh Improvement mod except for this. And all of these arrows are pointing away from the exterior lightings and effects except for this one. So what do? You highlight it by clicking on it, right-clicking on it once, or left-clicking on it once, I should say. You right-click on it once, and click Flip Rule. And that was all we needed to do to clear out that cycle. Very helpful, very straightforward. It can get a little bit more complicated the more cycles that you have in, depending on which mods are overwriting what, but it's still the easiest way that I've been able to find to actually deal with those. Very impressed with Vortex that they were able to figure out an easy, understandable way to do that. Use WizKid signs instead. So, we're actually going to take a second, clear out that, and find Blowing in the Wind. And we're going to first remove the patch that we have for it. Remove. And then we're going to remove the mod itself. Remove. Okay. We'll clear out that search, and then we'll go back to the ones that are uninstalled, and we're gonna go ahead and install the WizKid signs. So you'll see, we actually have one that is already for Lanterns of Skyrim 2. Which is great, because that was the one that was interfering with Blowing in the Wind. So we'll go ahead and we'll click that. It already comes with its own patches. We don't actually have any of these. The Books of Skyrim we're going to be uninstalling, because it does conflict with Legacy of the Dragonborn. So we're not going to install that patch for right now, so we're just going to click Finish. Perfect. While I'm at that, actually, I'm going to go ahead and uninstall the Books of Skyrim. Delete. And of course there are mod conflicts because it's conflicting with Static Mesh Improvement mod. So we want static mesh improvement to be loaded before, because we want to make sure that all of the signs have the nice new fancy textures. And just click save. Perfect. Okay. Alright, so we've got the WizKit signs, we just did the enhanced lighting and effects. Keep scrolling. The update to Undeath. I'm actually going to save that one for last, because we're going to have to go into SSE Edit for that, so I'll get back to that one in just a second. Book covers Skyrim. Do I still have that one? I do, actually. So, book. Yeah, book cover Skyrim SE desaturated. So we're actually going to remove that one as well, because it's already included in Legacy of the Dragonborn, which means we won't need the compatibility patch that it calls for right there. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is reinstall the immersive Fort Dawnguard. So we're just going to search Fort, and we'll just have to reinstall this. So again, you just use the reinstall option, update all profiles, and it'll go ahead and bring up all of the different options that we have. Yes, so we have enhanced lightings and effects. We're going to want to make sure anytime you have an option in your install to get the NPC face gen files, always check it. Always, always, always. Because otherwise, you are going to be that much more likely to get that stupid blackface bug that sounds really bad, but basically all it means is that it wasn't able to load the face gen files, and everybody ends up with a completely untextured face. The rest of the body will look fine, the face will not. Make sure that you download them if it gives you the option. If not, there is a way to save them through using the creation kit, but it's a huge pain in the ass, and I'm so happy that more and more mods are including this option where they just include the loose face gen files for you in case you need them. It's great. So, I believe we have Skyrim Project Optimization. I believe we also have Dawnguard Arsenal. We definitely have Weapons, Armor, Clothing, and Clutter. We do not have the Furniture Clutter overhaul. We have Palaces and Castles Enhanced, but we're going to use the ESL version of that patch. We're also going to use the ESL version of the Legacy of Dragonborn, and not the Way Shrines patch, because we don't have that. So click Finish. Oh, and it's yelling at us about missing masters. So what is it yelling at us about? Oh, I have the high poly NPCs, so we'll just keep clicking check again. Oh, we'll have to deploy it in order for it to figure that out. So I'm actually gonna... Oh no, I have to wait on that because I can't deploy it while we have loot open. So that's gonna keep yelling at us. It's fine. It's fine. It'll yell at us. We'll deal with it. So realistic boat bombing is up next. Here we go. And compatibility patch, is included on this mod's plugin page. Yeah, so it looks like I have to install these, separately. So, let's go ahead. Whoops. Nexus. Oops. Skyrim Special Edition Nexus. Perfect. We'll just go to the search. Stick. Boat. Bobbing. SSE. We'll open this one, and we'll also open the patches, just in case it's not listed here. It should be, but still better. So we're looking for the patches for Oakwood and Static Mesh Improvement Mod. So here's Oakwood. Just uploaded this past year. I got very confused for a second there. And the realistic boat bobbing static mesh improvement meshes, which I apparently had in my previous download as well, but there we go. Okay, perfect. So now we have that. Close that again. So we'll go ahead and install both of these. Good deal. Yep, unresolved file conflicts, I knew it. So it's... yeah, because the static mesh improvement mod is going to overwrite all of the other realistic boat bobbing, we want to make sure that this is loaded after all of the other RBB mods. So make sure all of these are listed after. There we go. All done. Okay. Next up, fixes for armor and clothing extensions. So we'll clear out our text search and just go back to uninstalled and just install this. Perfect. Seem to be using Cloaks of Skyrim. Don't I have the fix for that? No, I don't. How do I not have that one? At this point, I just need to make the Nexus my homepage. Bandoliers. Bags and pouches. Classic. And we're looking for the Cloaks of Skyrim. Oh, it's included with the plugins installer. Duh. Okay. That's my bad. Okay. So we just need to reinstall it. Update. This is why you need to read carefully, folks. I haven't had enough caffeine this afternoon, so I'm all over the place. Or show. I want to make sure that this is loaded after. Save. That. Oh, this is bad for NPC. Okay. So, reinstall. Update. Yeah, see, it's saying that that particular file isn't active. Interesting. It is named something different? Yeah, I can't even say to use it with... Oh, those require winter is coming, but I also don't have, Cloaks of Skyrim, is what it's claiming. What is the plugin name for Cloaks of Skyrim, I wonder? So, I always edit my plugins page to make sure that I have the mod listed here. It doesn't do that by default, but it's really helpful because a lot of times the name of the plugin will be significantly different from the name of the mod. Sometimes it'll just be shortened, like CBBE versus Caliente's Beautiful Bodies Enhancer. where you can't search any part of it. So if you're ever looking for a particular mod, like in this case I'm looking for the mod named Cloaks of Skyrim, and it only has a patch on it. I don't think that's right. I think I have an idea of why it's doing that, but yeah, I last downloaded this mod. Okay. That is interesting. Let me see if I can reinstall it from here, and yeah, I want to make sure that I have the main version. And now it's yelling because yeah, so I do have cloaks.esp. Why it didn't show up here is interesting. Okay, I'm gonna take a second. I'm gonna close loot, and I'm gonna go ahead and deploy what I have right now, just so we can get a bit of a reader on where we are in this process and how many issues have been fixed at this point. And to make sure we get rid of these missing masters errors, because we actually don't. We're just going to dismiss that. Yeah, so this will actually happen if you run a deploy after you've run FNIS. It'll say, hey, you have new files for these. You always want to make sure you use the newer file, or else it'll actually delete the FNIS files that it needs. And you'll also notice that some other files are now cleared out. So you just want to make sure, as long as it's FNIS, you can go ahead. I'm actually going to take a look at the individual files. Yeah, so you can see that these ones were updated, and then these particular ones are being deleted. I'm actually going to restore these files, because I don't see a different file up here that would replace it. Or I should say, a file up here that has a similar name that is a new file. So I'm gonna make sure that I revert that and restore those files and click confirm. Just something you want to pay attention to. If you do end up deleting something that you did want, it's not the end of the world. In that case, those seem to be main Skyrim files, in which case you can just go back to your, especially if you have it through Steam, you can go back into Steam and have it check the validity of the local files, and it'll reinstall anything that you're missing. So it's not completely broken. So we're going to click check again, and you can see that we now have no missing masters, so that's fine. We'll wait for the plugins to update here. Okay. Now, if we look for Cloaks of Skyrim, we still only have the patch listed, which is interesting. It's not set to disabled. Okay. So, in this case, we may need to install this manually. So, thankfully, installing this manually is going to be pretty simple. So, I have all of the mods that I was using in here. And that should include Cloaks of Skyrim. Cloaks of Skyrim ESE. You'll notice that all of these are one of two main types of files. .7zip or .rar. Either way, it's just a compressed file. If you didn't have a mod manager like Vortex, this is how you would have to... The process we're about to go through is how you would have to install every single mod, and you'll see quickly why people came up with mod managers. But in this case, it doesn't seem to be handling it correctly. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and extract all of that to its own folder here. And we're just going to sort, and you'll see now it's in its own folder. So, we have our main resources with our main textures. We want to make sure that we read the README. Deactivate cloaks.esp and replace it with one of the optional files if you want to use them. Cloaks no Imperial. If you want to make it compatible with certain armors, or make it so that they are hand-placed in the world and craftable, but no NPCs will wear them. So, we don't care about that. We want the main plugin. So we want cloaks.esp, along with the patch and Cloaks Dawnguard, not just the USSEP patch. We don't want either of those. And then for the faux mod, it has its own thing, I guess. COS Dawnguard README. Yeah, so you only want to have one Dawnguard style. So, in this case, what we're gonna do is take this main plugin, File Explorer. You gotta go to your Skyrim Special Edition folder, go into Data. If you scroll down, you'll see that we already have a whole bunch of BSAs, ESLs, ESPs. That's because that's what Vortex does. It does this whole process that we're doing manually for us. It just only copies over the stuff we need. So, if we were to look in here, we will see it does already have Cloaks Dawnguard, Cloaks USSEP, and Cloaks.esp. Why they're not showing up in Vortex, I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know. It is odd. We will make sure, though, that we have the main resources as well. So all we need to do for that is go into each of the meshes, then go into clothes, make sure that we have a Cloaks of Skyrim. We do. Perfect. And then we need to do the same with textures. Just go into clothes, Cloaks of Skyrim. Perfect. So we do have that. It is all installed. I'm guessing that the issue that it's having is that it is now named something different. So, in that case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to Nexus and see whether there is a new patch for Cloaks. Ooh, Cloaks of Skyrim HD. Don't mind me as I look at more mods. Organized Bandits and Cloaks of Skyrim patch. Oh, they already have an option for a VR body Cloaks of Skyrim. Interesting. There's a patches list. That might help us. Okay. And the option that it is trying to install is what? Bandoliers? The no sudden nudes fix. Yes, that was an older issue that it had, where when it was first ported over to Special Edition, specifically the it wasn't the bandolier, the actual bandolier. I think it was the anything that went on the left side of the body used the same skeleton slot as your main chest plate armor piece. So whenever you equipped it, your character would suddenly be wearing nothing but the bags and bandoliers, the helmet, the gloves, and the boots, and would otherwise be naked. So that was actually a very, very funny bug of the mod that has since been fixed, so you don't need these patches anymore, but was still very, very funny. I'm not seeing any other options, so next thing I'm going to do, patches for AI Overhaul, which we don't have, Moral Loot, which we don't have, Skyrim Revamped, no. We already have an option for this, so we don't need this. Instead, I'm going to try manually installing the Bandoliers, Bags, and Pouches one. So, we'll go back to our desktop and our mods folder, and we're looking for Bandoliers, Bags, and Pouches for NPC. 7-zip extract. Resort this, so we have it up here. Patches. And you'll see that we have all of them here. So we should already have the ones for Dawnguard Arsenal. we'll just go back to our load order here, back to data. Bandolier for NPC. We already have Cutting Room Floor, Dawnguard Arsenal, Immersive Armors, Weapons, Clothing, and Clutter. Oh, what's the one we're missing? Is the one for Cloaks of Skyrim. That one's for both Winter is Coming and Cloaks of Skyrim. So, we'll go to Optional. Alternate book and file holder, less common, those are fine. Faux mod? No. This is what we need. This one. Copy. If manually installing, choose only one. So what we need to do is take this one and delete it, which is fine because we still have it over here if we need it, and paste the new one in. Now, it's going to yell at us probably because we technically don't have the mod that it requires. But Loot recognizes that we have the mod that it requires, so it should still work. It will still be loaded. If we do end up having some issues with it, I'll research in between now and our next stream to see if I can figure out how to fix that, and I'll teach you how to fix it when a mod is expecting a mod of one name and it exists under a different name. That'll be interesting, because I've never done that before. But for right now, that's how you manually install a mod, if you absolutely have to. So now that we've done that, we're gonna go ahead and click Deploy Mods again, just to make sure that everything is loaded properly and that it's recognizing that new ESP, and we'll see if it does yell at us. It probably will. It's usually pretty picky about stuff like that. Yeah, so... yeah, it's saying, hey, you deleted this bandolier for npc.esp. So we want to save that change and make sure that we delete that file. So confirm. Dismiss. Now, moment of truth. Is it going to yell at us? Still loading plugins? If it doesn't yell at us, I'm almost going to be more concerned. Still loading plugins. Okay. I'm not gonna question it. It's not yelling at me. It's fine. Okay, so with that, we're gonna go back to loot and see what else it's gonna yell at us about and what we have to do from here. So we're gonna go ahead and resort these plugins. Drag it down there so that you guys can actually see it. There it goes. Okay. I should have that one enabled. Is it looking in the right spot for this stuff? It should be. Yeah, it is. Okay. Interesting. Alright, I'm gonna try closing Vortex quickly and just reopening it. I'm thinking maybe it hadn't actually deployed everything before I opened loot, because that warning about the missing masters didn't pop up until later. So if we click more... yeah, so these are actually requiring Bandolier for NPC. So we're going to need... Yes, so many of the things, I know. But again, that's why we're going through this. So we will just go back to the mods. It should be in here. Take files depending on your load order. Okay. That's all fine and good. If manually installing, only choose one. Okay. But then these ones require it. Interesting. Well, if I go in here... Well... So we have the Cloaks of Skyrim patch. So we need to get rid of this one, this one, this one, and this one. And put in the other ones. So we'll just go ahead and delete those. Copy. Paste. Copy. Paste. There we go. That should resolve it. And then we go ahead and deploy. I know we're getting to the end of the time here. So we've got about 5 minutes left. Yeah, so it's saying use the newer files. So these are different files. So that's good. So confirm, use the newer files. So that should resolve that. I am interested... Oh. More. Okay. At this point, I'm really just not going to believe it when it says that I only need to choose one of them. And I'm gonna go ahead and just copy this one in as well. Because at that point, I'm thinking that, even if it ends up double loading it, I think it'll be worth it for it to not yell about the missing master. And I don't think it will double load it. I'm thinking that there are some flags missing somewhere, as far as what would need to be done. So, does it list any of them as... Yeah, no, it doesn't list any of them as, Oh, now what? Alright, I'm gonna wait, because it probably just hasn't loaded it. Clear filter. Sort by name. Yeah, it just hasn't loaded it yet, so we'll just give it a second. Oh. That might help too. Check again more. No, it still needs... Yeah, and the fact that it says that the patch needs bandoliers also tells me that it does need the actual bandoliers. So, there we go. So that one's fixed. Perfect. Okay. So now, let's go back into loot and make sure that loot isn't yelling at us about, at least like the RS Children patch, it shouldn't. It is still, though. Oh, do we need to update the master list? Probably. Interesting that it's saying no master list update was needed. I may have to go in and clear out the master list and redo this, but I'll save that for if I absolutely need to. We did get the number of errors down, though, which is a good thing. Perfect. Yeah, it's still yelling at us about this, but we do actually have a patch. At least I'm pretty sure we do. Oh, it never got installed. That's why. Whoops. Dismiss. Yeah, so you can see that it was included in the patch all-in-one installer. We are going to overwrite it because this does have the better face gen data. And just click OK. So that's done. Never assume that the tool is wrong. Okay, we're going to deal with Undeath next time because that's a whole lot of business. Again, that one... You know what, let's just look at any of them that are listed as disabled. Nope. What about plugins that are listed as disabled? Just unlimited rings and amulets. Okay. Let's look at Fort. Yeah, we did reinstall Immersive Fort Dawnguard. So, Fort. Yeah, so we do have this patch. Okay, so we do have the patches, so we're just gonna ignore that warning. And it's not actually a warning, it's just a message. So, it's not yelling at us and saying, I won't be able to load this. Same with the weapons, armor, clothing, and clutter fix. We will make sure that we have that. We'll just clear out that filter and go to uninstalled. Weapons, armor, clothing, and clutter fix. Ta-da. And it also has the armor and clothing expansion, so that's perfect. Dismiss. And it looks like we are out of time at this point, so I'm just going to ask everybody, before we go, do you guys have any sort of questions, comments, concerns, suggestions, anything like that? If so, then you can either DM me on the Discord, or you can find me on Twitch, or I should say on Twitter, and message me there at AlexTheRainbug, or you can find me here every Saturday, either playing with a mod pack, or actually playing the game, Skyrim, again, every Saturday, here at Rainbow Collective, or you can find me on Mondays over with Tyler, as we go through Elder Scrolls Online. We will be streaming that to the Craftic channel, if I'm remembering correctly. And you can feel free to ask me questions there as well. Even though I'm in a different game, I'll still be able to answer any questions, so long as I can remember the answers off the top of my head. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Thank you guys so much for coming in and watching and bearing with me as I go through and try to get this game set back up so that we can dive right back in to the actual world of Skyrim. I was hoping to have it all done this week. Apparently not. Apparently some things required a little more work than I was thinking. Hopefully we'll be able to finish everything up next week. I will make sure to keep going through loot and fixing all of those issues so that those are all done. Hi, Chris. So that those are all done by the time you guys join me next week. The only thing that I'm not going to be doing between now and next weekend is the Undeath edits, because that requires SSE edit, and that's something that I really want to be able to show you guys, and we'll have to do more in SSE edit anyways. So, make sure to join us next week. I'm going to be going through how to use Body Slide, I'm going to be going through how to use Rybash, and how to use SSE edit, and hopefully we'll be able to get through all of that next time. I can guarantee you will be able to get through Body Slide and Rybash. I can't guarantee we'll be able to get through SSE Edit all in one weekend, but we'll see. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me, and until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye!